Happy holidays, Needham, and happy holidays, Ryan.
Thanks, Rob. Is everybody in the Ticktin family getting into the holiday spirit?
I would say so.
That's
Thanks
good.
for asking.
That's good.
Welcome to What's My House Worth, a show that dives into the real estate scene right here in Needham. Today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the November sales data. I think a month that probably didn't shock us either way, Ryan, wouldn't you say?
No, pretty basic, kind of bland November, I think you might say.
Before we look at the data, though, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Rob Ticktin. This is Ryan McDonnell. We are with Hawthorne Real Estate. We are a design build company. We also provide real estate brokerage services to our clients. With that being said, let's take a look at that November sales data and see if we can grab any information as we see what exactly sold in the month, Ryan.
Yeah, Rob, we did have 23 sales, so it's not nothing. 23 sales in the month of November, with an average list price of just over $1 million and an average sale price of just under $1 million, which means that our percentages, Rob, are still at that, in those 90s, and at 96 for your average sale price as a percentage of list, which isn't great. We like to see that number higher than 97, and we have seen it higher than 97, although last month it was just above 97%. And then the average sale price as a percentage of original list, Rob, 93%. That's pretty low.
Yeah, lower than normal, but also more subject to fluctuation when you have a lesser amount of sales. And 23, while it's a pretty good number for November, maybe a little more apt to be swayed.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of properties that really move that needle that we'll get to when we start diving through the individual deals. Average sale price per square foot of $355. That's on pace from last month with $357. And the days on market of 83. We were at 79 last month, so that's still not bad given the time of year. So nothing really to scream about in terms of those numbers.
Okay, so graph time.
Graph time.
We shall take a look at the trailing 6 months and see how November looks when set against the backdrop of the 5 months leading up to it. And it looks like kind of September, October, November, we've leveled off a little bit. Would you say?
I mean, for those of you scoring at home and you're wondering why, because you remember from last month we were talking about 14 sales in October. We did have 2 October sales that closed after the show aired, so that's why it's up to 16. I know that you noticed it, so I figured we'd get out in front of it and explain it. But yeah, 23, these months are typically slow, so it's not anything really to be too concerned about, especially when you start looking at the next graph, Rob.
Well, before we get to that last graph.
Sorry, I jumped graphs.
Yeah.
This is why I don't lead the graph.
One thing I wanted to mention was 221 sales over the last 6 months. 221 sales.
Okay.
A year ago, that number was 189 sales. So we are
more.
up 17% year over year over that 6 month time period.
And that's not insignificant.
And that's why I interrupted you.
Thank you. I'm glad you did. Boy,
You're welcome.
That was breaking news. That was a bulletin.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited to get it out, and then you jumped to the next slide. So back to my role of introducing the next slide, and let's take a look at November when set up against the previous Novembers, and it seems to be, you want to talk about the most unpredictable month of the year. Right. It's November.
November's a wild card.
We don't know what we're getting into.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Just strap yourself in and wait for what happens.
Could be 9, could be 30. So we're going to settle in right in between, 23.
It's all over the map. Mm-hmm. All right, good.
That's it.
Should we move on?
Hey, easy. It's my job. Let's move on.
Somebody's bucking for a promotion.
Now we're going to go slide by slide, sale by sale. We're going to start low, work our way up, and we're going to start a little bit lower than normally.
Yes, we are.
With the first sale, 541 Central Avenue is first up on the list. This one sells for $385. That's assessed value of $461, Ryan. $385 seems like a pretty low number there.
It does, Rob. And this one's on the corner of Taylor and Central. It also is one that's contributing to our sales prices percentage of list, as this one was started at $524.9, sells at $385. And anything that sells in the threes in Needham is definitely piquing your interest, and you're thinking of what could be done here.
Especially with a 12,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, and it abuts conservation. I think that it's a busy area. I think this one has some redevelopment opportunities, but I think more so in a renovation than a teardown would be my guess. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
If Hillside moves to Owen's Poultry Farm, then that's like 8 doors up from here.
Yeah, it's sneaky walk to school.
Sneaky walk to school.
Right.
I wonder if that was talked about during the 50 days that it was on the market.
Perhaps.
92 Grant Street is not a sneaky walk to town. That's just a walk to town location, Ryan.
Yeah, that is a walk to town.
Sells for $620. Thoughts?
Yep. This one, I had the opportunity to speak with the seller prior to his decision to list with another agent.
Oh, that's interesting.
But what is also interesting is my suggested listing price was $639, which happened to be the listing price once it was reduced and then sold. So
a moral victory.
I mean, if the world of moral victories that don't really add up to anything, this is one of them. But the location you mentioned, right in town. It's on the corner of Grant and Kimball. I think the drawback here, it's kind of a small lot. It's under 10,000,
and it's a corner.
And it's a corner, and it doesn't have a garage. So those were sort of the factors that I was looking at when suggesting the listing price of $639, which was, as it turns out, to be spot on.
Okay, that same house sold for $545,000 back in 2003. Next up, 37 Elder Road, and Ryan, you want to talk about price reductions? 4 of them for this listing.
Yeah, but I think ultimately, Rob, they got it right. I mean, this is a property that was being marketed as kind of behind the scenes as a potential redevelopment opportunity for builders, but then also presented to the market as, hey, this is a house you can move it into. And I really think it is both. It's a ranch. It's on a big lot, 10,000 square feet. Had some nice updates to the kind of the things that people hate updating, which are the roof, the heating system. But then it had some new appliances. Hardwood floors were redone. And I think $620 is a good price. I think you probably got it to where it's attractive for development, and it's also a good price for a homeowner to move in.
Oil heating there, but gas on the street, brought into the house. Good job there by the agent
helpful.
putting that in the listing sheet. Next sale is on the corner of Rolling Lane and Brookside, Ryan. It is 2 Rolling Lane. This one sells for $665,000. Thoughts on this as you look through this one?
Yeah, Rob, as we were talking about, this is a Royal Barry Wills cape.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That means it's low to the ground with eaves just above the windows.
Yeah, Royal Barry Wills was a local architect who kind of introduced that style.
And also, don't forget, Ryan, the really big chimney in the middle of the house that's definitely a trait of a Royal.
Right, and it's also hard to work around if you're trying to do any renovations. But this house is it's move-in condition. It's 2,100 square feet, so it's a good size for a cape on almost a 12,000 square foot lot. And for $665, this is a great purchase for somebody who's looking to get into Needham for the sixes.
Agreed.
Move right in, boom, boom, done.
Walk to Volante.
Yeah.
Next listing.
Next
You
listing.
ready to jump over to the next one? 39 Birds Hill Avenue would be that one. And it's interesting to kind of compare and contrast this one with the previous one, Ryan.
Right, and so this is a perfect example of a house that is, for lack of a better way to describe it, functionally obsolete.
Okay.
This house is, as even in the listing sheet itself, it says this house is not currently in habitable condition. So it's $685, but if you're a buyer and you're looking in the sixes, like you're going to look at 2 Rolling Lane and say, great, I'm going to move into that. If you're a buyer looking in the sixes, 39 Birds Hill Ave is not even an option.
Don't waste your time.
You can't buy this house. You should not buy this house because it's going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this house to the point where you can live in it. And then even in doing so, you may have overbuilt, and you may have, the amount that you put in plus the cost of the land is going to probably exceed what that house is worth. So there really isn't a viable option for this house other than to tear it down. And I think that that's something that we're running into in this town a lot, where there are a lot of tear downs, that's true. But when you start to dig deeper in terms of the house that's being torn down, more often than not, the house is functionally obsolete, and it's not a viable option for a homeowner who's looking in that price point. So it's really not pricing out the nice young family who's trying to get into Needham in the sixes, because this house is not an option for them.
Right, the nice young family doesn't want to get into this house in the sixes.
They can't get into that house in the sixes. It's not possible. For what it would take to get that house to be habitable, in a lot of these houses that are being redeveloped, to get them to a point where they're habitable and they meet today's standards by many different metrics. It was energy efficiency, it's room size, it's ceiling height, it's all of these things.
Yep.
To get those things, you're spending so much money that it's not a viable option for you as a starter home. And that's what I think there may be sometimes a misconception about the houses that are being torn down in this town.
Well, we appreciate your insight on that. It's a good take. Interesting. 39 Birds Hill, also a corner lot like Rolling Lane on the corner of Birds Hill and Ingleside.
Yes.
320 Cedar Street is our next listing, and what do you know? What do you think about that?
I think it's your deal of the month.
It
Ryan.
is my deal of the month, and Ryan, here's why.
Okay.
320 Cedar Street is on a busier road, double line, but it's great space. It was completely gut renovated in 2008. It's a good size, very open layout, bright and light. Also a big lot, 17,000 square feet. You want to talk about a house that you can move into and do nothing to. this is the one. 4 beds, 2 baths. And what's interesting is after I did all this research, I noticed it was a for sale by owner. So kind of telling that the deal of the month on the buyer's perspective is a for sale by owner, which is to say maybe if it was listed with an agent, the seller would have done a little bit better because it would have been marketed properly. Just something I noticed after the fact. I was not swayed by that.
Okay.
So there you go.
I'm in.
All right, thanks. Good to have you on board. 382 South Street is our next listing. This one sells for $762,500. Originally listed for $899. A lot of spreads, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, and this is certainly one of them. Right?
Yeah, and I think as you mentioned, when you're talking about a sample size of 23, and you have 4 or 5 houses that have sold quite a bit below their original list, you're going to have an astounding number like 93%, which we don't see very often. This one, it's on an acre. It's on South Street, which is near the Edgewater section of South Street. The thing that I noticed is I happened to notice the directions, and when I read the directions, I said this is definitely an out-of-town agent because they give the directions off of West Street. Yeah. West Street is what Dedham Ave is called before you get to Needham.
Interesting.
So I thought that was kind of funny. But,
yeah, good catch.
It's it's an acre and it's 762. This one could be redeveloped. It's unclear at this point, but I think it's a good price and it probably just started out a little high.
Right. Somebody asks you though, before seeing this, what's an acre lot worth on South Street?
I mean, it depends on where and the topography, but you're anywhere from the 7s right up into the 9s and maybe pushing $1 million.
Agreed.
Again, depending on where.
A lot of things, but I was a little surprised this one went for $762. I would have thought it would have landed in the 8s.
Okay.
Which means deal of the month finalist
for
me. Next
Speaking
one.
Speaking of deals of the month.
Yeah, next one's a little tricky.
I mean, maybe we shouldn't. I mean, in fairness to everybody involved, I mean, this 12 Mark Lee
has our handprints all over it.
Rob's the listing agent. I'm the buyer agent. I clearly think it's the deal of the month for the buyer all day long.
Right. Of course you do. And I think most of the viewers would probably feel differently that it's the deal of the month for the seller.
Yeah, we'll let you decide. But this is a great house. We talk about the turnkey aspect of homes all the time. This one, the first floor is really, really nice. The kitchen was redone recently. The concrete countertop, which is really cool. I mean, it's not on a big lot.
Right.
But it's
5,200 square feet.
Needham Heights.
Yes, great commuter location.
Great commuter location.
And you could argue that this house was oozing charm. Right?
Yes.
There's a ton of charm.
Yeah, I think everybody at the end of the day was very happy with how this turned out.
Hey, listen, sometimes they go off without a hitch.
Right. Good job.
It was a pleasure working with you, Ryan.
Yes, Rob, really was.
I wish I could say the same thing about this show. 34 Pleasant Street is our next listing. This one sells for $835. Wait a minute.
This is a townhouse.
Oh, Ryan, we got bamboozled.
Yeah, who's responsible for this?
Come on, townhouse.
Right. This is a single-family show. Look, we don't discriminate against anything other than townhouses.
Well, listen, I'm happy to do a show that's what's your townhouse worth, but we can't fill a half hour with that.
Yeah, we're doing a similar show in Natick, so you can go there and watch it.
That's a good point. A lot more content. 155 Whitman Road, land sale?
Yeah, maybe.
Possibly?
This one was on the market for 517 days.
Ryan, I think that's a long time.
That's a lot of patience. Original list at $989, sells at $850, again, contributing to our spread. I think it was marketed as one of Needham's most sought-after neighborhoods, which, it's one street, so it's not really a neighborhood.
What constitutes a neighborhood? How many streets?
I think a block. You gotta have intersections and.
Okay.
And when we're having a block party on Whitman, it's just the people that live on Whitman.
It's a street party.
It's a street party. It's not a block party. It's a street. You can't have a block party on Whitman.
Right.
But don't get me wrong. I really like Whitman.
Agreed.
We just did a really nice home on Whitman that the homeowners love. But this one is probably priced a little bit high. We talk about the land value. $850 is probably closer to it. So 517 days speaks to that.
Sells for $850. Same house sold for $735,000 back in 2006. So we're going to go to an actual neighborhood.
Okay.
Undisputed.
There's no argument coming from me.
Not for the next listing. Okay. It's 119 Noanette Road.
All right.
And it is it's a kind of a deceptively larger house. There's a really nice addition, Ryan.
Yeah.
That big family room off the back, I think, was a huge selling point for this one. Would you agree?
Yeah, this one was well priced. It's sold in 5 days. It's over 2,700 square feet when you include everything.
Yep.
And I think we're definitely seeing an uptick of activity in that side of town.
Yeah. Same house sold for $705,000 back in 2010. Yeah. A little bit of work done, I think, since then. However, 140 Hoover. I'm going to talk about a listing with some fingerprints on it. This is one of those.
Yep.
This has your fingerprints on it.
It does. I mean, this one's kind of a holdover from the spring market. So, I mean, this property went on and off in 4 days, but it went on and off in 4 days in May.
Okay.
So it's more indicative when you see the original list of 824 and the sale price of 875. This didn't happen in October. This happened in the throngs of the spring market. So, but this is a great house. I mean, 2,000 square feet. It's been tastefully updated. The kitchen's gorgeous. It's move-in, turnkey, all the things we like about selling a house in this price point.
Mitchell.
It's in Mitchell. Its drawback was on the corner of Webster, but to its credit, it had a really big side yard that was insulated from Webster by the house and was situated nicely on Hoover. So it's just, and this is a great little deal, and the family that's moving in is very excited, and everybody wins.
So it's you talk about comparing. For whatever reason, I was drawn to compare 140 Hoover Road sells for $875 to the next listing, which is 21 Stewart Road sells for $881.5, so $6,500 more. You're talking about similar in size, although this one's a little bit bigger, but has 4 beds, has the 2.5, has the extra half bath. Whereas Hoover had 1 bath upstairs, but no master.
Correct.
Right. This one has a master.
Right.
So, which explains why probably it sold for more. It has the master. It's not quite as updated.
And it's a colonial.
And
it's nestled nicely in the heart of Olin Woods, although didn't mention Olin Woods for some reason.
Yeah,
it
that's
could only have helped.
Yeah, that might have hurt it a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
I think Stewart, I don't know if we've talked about this, but Stewart I think is the most underrated road in Olin Woods.
Oh, you got to expand on that.
Well, because if you go along all those finger roads that go into Olin Woods, most of them I would say on average are 10,000 square feet, some maybe a little bit smaller, some maybe a little bit bigger. Stewart.
The lot sizes.
Correct, the lot sizes. But Stewart, as you head down, every lot is, I would say, 13,000 square feet.
So you got some elbow room on Stewart.
That's exactly right. You have some elbow room on Stewart.
That's an interesting observation.
So a little bit more space, bigger lots, and it's, I don't think many people realize that.
Well, I mean, we have been, to this day, really giving Mayflower the moniker as the epicenter of Olin Woods.
Which I'm not saying is not the case.
So are we, okay, so, but you just
I
got done telling me that Stewart is really the
most underrated.
The big boy on the block.
The most underrated road in Olin
All right,
Woods.
so not the epicenter.
No. It's like there's the MVP and the MIP. This
Okay.
is the most improved street in Olin Woods.
All right.
Not the most valuable.
Well, keep up the good work, Stewart.
Yeah.
We're all pulling for you.
That's true. Not too far away from Olin Woods is our next listing. It's 15 Bonwood Road. This is a house that you and I both walked through, Ryan, if I remember correctly.
You do.
And actually, if I remember correctly, you nailed what the listing price was after walking through the house.
That's fun.
So you gave your stamp of approval on the listing
Yeah,
price
it out
before it sold. And
it was pretty much, right there, right?
Yeah.
Sold for $885,
Yep.
listed $899, 18 days.
Yeah.
It's nestled into a maze of level lots and like-size homes,
Right.
which I thought was fun. Cul-de-sac, which we both enjoy. Nice. I like the exterior space here. The deck in the yard. It was a really nice property. The kitchen was open. Family room had been updated. There were 4 beds with a master suite. It didn't have air conditioning, but it had a new heating system, so you can always put the air in. New roof.
Big open basement.
Yep. And the basement had tons of potential. It wasn't finished.
Correct.
But yeah, this wasn't. I mean, I think it's a good buy. 2,700 square feet, 4 beds. Boom.
There you go. 33 Aletha Road is next up. This house sold in 2006 for $691,000. Lots of work, I think, went into it since that time.
It got very green.
Yeah, it did. Without a doubt. Can you talk a little bit about that, Ryan?
I mean, I don't know if we have enough time. I mean, this is environmentally friendly, like to the nines. It's FSC wood cabinets, Rob. FSC is the Forest Stewardship Council.
Yeah, of course.
Which sole purpose is to make sure you're using wood that has been basically handled in an environmentally friendly way from the minute it was a little sapling until it arrives as your dining room table. So it's obviously probably more expensive.
Right, it's like the Wagyu of lumber.
That's right. They have other features in this house, like recycled glass used for the backsplash. I mean, it has high SEER condensers for the AC, LED bulbs everywhere, eco-friendly carpet tiles in the basement. They really made an effort to do a renovation here that was very green and environmentally friendly, and that is I think hats off.
Yeah, and it paid off.
It does. It paid off. They got a good price for their house. I'm sure it was done very, very well. And it's as a homeowner, you can elect to do that. I mean, it definitely costs more money.
Yes.
But I mean, and it's great that these building products are out there and they're used more often than not in new construction, as we're seeing, because of the energy efficiency standards that are in place, but also because homeowners, when they're doing custom new construction, want to do these things, and I think it's great.
All right, there you go. It's certainly a way to set yourself apart when you do list your house, because we don't see it very often.
Right.
And like I said, this one listed for $989 sells for $30,000 over that, so they clearly did pretty well.
Agreed.
In that transaction. 82 Honeywell Street is our next listing. This one listed for $1,225, sells for over $1 million, Ryan.
Yeah, this one.
$104,455.
This one is my deal of the month, Rob, for the seller.
How about that?
It may not really. You may not really be asking why it sold for $200,000 under list, but this is a house I had some experience with. I sold it to this current owner a few years ago. It sold in the 8s, and they made one real improvement to it. They updated all the flooring to hardwood. It had been kind of a synthetic flooring there throughout the house. But I thought when this came on in the 1-2s, we both thought it was overpriced. But I thought it was a house that was going to sell for under $1 million.
Right.
So even though this ends up going for much less than it was listed for, I still think the seller got a good price for it. And the reality is they probably don't feel that way, but I think they did. And so it's my deal of the month for the seller, because I thought it was going to be under $1 million. It was over $1 million. So they win, even though they probably feel like they didn't.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to win, you should at least feel like you won.
Right. But it's a silver lining. You still won.
Oh, that's a good point. 46 Rosemary Street is the next listing. On paper, I like this house, Ryan. I didn't actually walk through this one for sake of full disclosure, but you're talking about, walk to town. It's in between Webster and Highland. Mm-hmm. It's one way. It's a little tricky.
Yeah, it's the one-way part of Rosemary.
But a big lot, third of an acre.
Right.
And a lot of space for less than $1.2 million, close to town. I mean, it's just
big lot,
for in a newer house.
Yeah.
Did you see what the house sold for when it was built in 2000?
802.
Ah, yeah. See what the lot sold for?
No.
It started with a 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I know. Interesting.
Yikes.
But 802 is a new construction in 2000. We've come a long way in the past 15 years.
We have. You look older.
Certainly. These guys don't.
No.
122 Valley Road is our next listing. We're heading to the Valley, Ryan. Love the Valley.
Okay.
Right?
This one was on the market for 111 days, albeit during construction some of that time, but it also went out at 1.415. So it's not entirely new.
Yep.
I'm sorry, 189 days, my fault.
Yep.
It's built on the existing foundation. So there are benefits to that. Most of those benefits are
cost.
Well, right. So the benefits are reaped by the builder. So you're not getting a new basement. It's you may not have the ceiling height, et cetera. So the builder's saving some money.
But the builder's saving some money, but he's not like he's making the same amount of money on the sale of the house either.
But that's kind of the point I was trying to make. Is like it went out at 1.415. So it's like it wasn't new, but it was being presented as such. So that land was purchased for $501, which is a pretty good price even for what must have been a year ago.
Yeah.
It's a good price for the land. And there's plenty of development going on in the valley and on Valley Road. So I think the builder probably still did okay. And we didn't get a chance to see the house because it was sold before completion. But the number here I think works pretty well.
All right, making a big jump here from 1195 to 1385. Our next listing is 14 Holland Street. This is a house that's on a big lot. I mean, not many people realize, I think,
right.
That, when you're driving by this house, just how vast it is behind the house, 17,000 square feet.
How vast it is behind the front door.
Yeah.
Like, the house is very unassuming from the street.
Absolutely.
And it's a one-car garage, and you look at it, and you're like, huh. And then you go, and it's quaint, it's pretty, it's a nice house. Then you walk inside, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, it's a ton of space.
It was very well done.
The basement, albeit a lot of space, but mazy.
Yeah, it's a good word, mazy.
Yeah.
It was a little choppy in the basement, but the main living area, main first floor, the master suite, very nicely done.
Would you say that's an A location or an A plus location?
It's an A. It's an A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Good?
No.
That's all I ask. 40 Hutter Ridge Road is our next listing. This is you talk about the person buying this house, what's their budget, right? Like if you have 1.4 to spend, you're not buying 40 Hutter Ridge because it needed everything.
Right.
It was a gut rehab in waiting, basically.
Yeah, and Hutter Ridge, for those that don't know, is a new development that's off of Webster near South Street. A lot of new, very, very high-end homes that are, you should take a drive in there and you want to see some homes that have some attention to detail, particularly on the curb appeal side.
Yeah.
They're really, really nice. And this was the existing property that remained that had been completely gutted, and it's gorgeous, and it really,
it's going to be a beautiful
it's
house.
going to be really, really, really cool. So that's a nice little development, that Hutter Ridge.
42 Tudor Road. Interesting that the exterior pic was the last picture.
Right.
Right? Like, you don't see that very often,
No.
but this one sells for 1,488. Quick comments about this one.
Real
Ryan.
quick, I mean, this one was sold for $148 in 2007. So this is another one where the buyer, or the seller rather, is probably disappointed with the outcome, but it's still a good price. And it's to me, I think that I almost think the 2007 number was really high.
Yeah.
But the 2015 number seems pretty good.
Okay. And we don't know that the seller's disappointed. Maybe they were just,
Well, it was listed at 1,599. So
Right, I know.
I'm willing to bet there's maybe a little teensy bit of
All
going
right,
on.
fair enough. 227 Bridle Trail Road. We're getting up to the big boys here. We're getting close to $2 million. We're not going to hit it, surprisingly, this month.
Nope.
Interesting that this house was assessed for 171, right?
Yeah, and Rob, I remember when this went out for 2,225, and I thought to myself at the time, I think this is a great house. I think it's under $2 million. It was. It's a great neighborhood. It's stucco, which I really think is cool. Meticulously done on the outside. Really nice exterior. 3-car garage, sport court. Really nice inside. Built in '97. Had the '97 look and feel. And I think that's why it wasn't a $2 million property.
So it's assessed for 171. The next listing, which sells for a higher number, is assessed for 156. So it's assessed for $150,000 less, but sells for more. Say hello to 33 Bird Drive, your highest price house of the month, the big seller.
Yeah, and this was built in 1996, but it had been updated since. So you walk into this kitchen, it's a brand new, modern kitchen, which I think sets it apart from Bridle Trail. Similar type neighborhood with similar houses, and there you go.
All right, and so there you have it, the 23 sales for the month of November. Before we check out and say goodbye, we wanted to give you a quick peek at the market snapshot and take a look at what's going on in the Needham real estate market as we speak. So with that in mind, Ryan, numbers are dropping a little bit, which we shouldn't be surprised by because everybody's getting ready for old man winter.
Yeah, I mean, so we have 62 active single-family listings, down a little bit. We're not seeing very many new things come on the market. Our averages are on par. I think everything looks about the way we would expect it to at this time.
All right, I would say that's accurate. The 40 single-family homes under agreement right now, same exact day last year, 51. So it might be a quiet couple of months for us on the show, just looking forward. But don't worry.
Maybe we'll get preachy again.
Maybe. I still don't know if we have enough time for that. Listing picture of the month? Huh?
What?
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
Listen, this is what I make, okay?
I'm speechless.
This lot is so special, right, that even during the fall months, you got some leaves that want to cling to that tree.
I don't know what that is.
It's a leaf.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a leaf.
I thought it was I almost thought it was trash.
Huh. That's a great take.
Really head scratching on that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe it's poison oak. I'm
out.
All right. Well, before you leave, what do people want to reach out to us? How
God,
do they do that?
if they still do, they can call us at 781-707-6564 or email us at rob.ryan@hawthornre.com.
Very good. Any thoughts as we head into the winter? You got about 30 seconds.
Everybody
the world is your oyster.
Have a safe, joyous holiday season.
Nice. Yeah.
We have plenty to be thankful for, and I hope everyone has a really, really nice holiday season.
Yeah, have a great season. Don't worry about the real estate market during the holidays. We'll keep an eye on it for you, and we'll be right back here again real soon. Thanks a lot for coming along. This is Ryan. I'm Rob. We'll see you later.